Turning to consider proposed changes to the classification and pay plan. The details were contained in Exhibit A and B of the General Circular 231. Ms. Hannon, would you give a brief overview of that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Following the previous month's discussion regarding the status of the pay schedule and the desire to look at an increase to help in the recruitment and retention of classified state troopers, we promulgated General Circular number 231 on April 26th. The Exhibits A and C, excuse me, Exhibits A and B of that exhibit circular are changes to the pay plan and Chapter 6. Those require a vote of this commission, as well as approval of the governor and appropriations by the legislature. That's outlined in the Constitution. So they will not become effective until those three components are met. Regarding Exhibit A, that's the proposed change to the state police service pay schedule. The proposal would raise cadet entrance rates from $46,600 to $56,000, and upon graduation would rise to from $49,000 to $59,000. The increase in cadet pay will create a competitive advantage in recruitment for state police service. The proposed adjustments would also roll through the entire grid and will cap out after 22 steps rather than 20 steps rather than the current 22-step structure. And then a retention incentive would be created, since retirement eligible employees would need to work an additional 3 years to receive the maximum impact on their retirement checks. And currently there is funding proposed or sponsored by Representative Hollis for this increase. House Bill 635 would generate additional funding that could implement changes to the schedule. And that's an overview of Exhibit A.
Do we have any motions?
Move to approve.
Is it second?
No, second.
Moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion?
Yes, please.
Commissioner, I'm sorry.
Just making sure. Thank you, Chairman. First and foremost, I'd like to expand upon what you said earlier, that this by no means is meant to reward bad behavior of anyone's, period. I've never run a law enforcement agency, but I've run quite a few businesses, and I continue to run quite a few businesses. And I agree with a lot of what was said earlier today that the lady spoke about. But the reality of trying to rebuild and get good employees in, yes, I'm sure there is a small percentage of people that do the job they do because they love it every day. The rest of everybody else has kids to raise, a family to support, has to pay a mortgage, has to put food on the table. And when you're doing the same job in Louisiana, which has the highest felonious death rate for law enforcement out of any state in the union, and you can go to Arkansas, Texas, or Mississippi and make considerably more money for doing the exact same job, that's a problem. There is no way to punish good morale. There's no way to punish morale and make it better. This pay raise that we're looking at, that is, my fellow commissioners know I've worked hard on to get it in front of you all. This is not a reward system. All we're trying to do is pay our troopers close to the Southern average. That's it. That's all we're trying to do. This is not a reward system. This is not a punishment system. This is part of building and rebuilding this agency to what it should be. Plain and simple. And I need that to be understood. All we're trying to do here is get close, not the United States average, because the Southern state average is less, close to Southern state average. That's it. This is not trying to say, we have a problem, let's throw money at it. There are a lot of things the current administration, the colonel, his lieutenant colonels, have been working on diligently since he has taken control and power, that I've seen, to correct the issues that are there. Yeah, there's a lot more that has to be done, both on y'all's side and our side. But this is just one step, as the chairman had said earlier, to get us there. So I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Any other comments? Agency have any comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Shabazz Hammond, Assistant Superintendent Chief of Staff, Louisiana State Police. As always, I just want to first thank you for the opportunity to come before you and speak about some of the things that we're doing and be transparent about what you have also heard this morning, as I've heard. First, say that my thoughts and my prayers, like many of our colleagues, go out to the Ronald Green family. That issue, that situation, and everything surrounding it is a constant reminder of why we have to get it right and why we have to work hard every day to make sure that what you saw, what everybody saw, the Ronald Green family is dealing with, is not seen again. It is my responsibility in the position that I'm in. It's Carlton Davis's responsibility as the Commander-in-Chief to ensure that no one else in this uniform violates or does anything outside of the law or our policies and procedures. I've been before you several times. I've been before many public scenarios and situations and environments where we've shared just the work that we're doing to work on building the trust and the legitimacy of our agency and what it is that we are called and responsible for doing. Our agency is at a monumental moment. We're at a historical crossroad, but we're working every day diligently to get it right, make it right. Back in December, I sat in this seat and presented to you some of the updates and the transformational progresses that we're making and the strategic plans that we're working on to build a better department. I've also said before you that to whom much is given, much is required. And with that requirement comes a lot of responsibilities. A lot of responsibilities that are placed upon the men and women of this agency to uphold and to keep. And I really want to be very clear about this. I don't want anyone to make any mistakes about it. We live and have a lot of responsibilities in front of us to handle and to be responsible for. But the accountability is just that much more greater. And we don't run from it. We've taken the missteps, looked at them, we've taken the errors and evaluated them and analyzed them. And we don't always get it right. The margin of error for us is pretty much zero. There is none. We cannot make a mistake. And as I sit before you, for anybody that has...
You do admit there have been mistakes in the past.
I completely admit that, and I've gone on record admitting it. We've looked at them, and we're looking at them every day. I've looked at a complaint yesterday involving a trooper, and we're dealing with it. As soon as we get matters that are not appropriately handled, we deal with them. And let me say this, there are a lot of situations that have been brought to my desk and to my attention that we did it right. And we acknowledge those as well. But I'm not going to skirt around or sugarcoat the fact that we have made mistakes. We have. Those mistakes, as you had mentioned, Mr. Commissioner, don't want to hold those troopers and men and women who are doing it right. I don't want to hold them at fault for somebody else's mistake, but we have a responsibility because it affects not only the troopers, but it affects the men and women and the citizens that we serve and the visitors that come to the state of Louisiana. It affects everybody when we don't get it right. I've heard, and I know our department is hearing loud and clear every day the requests, the concerns, the apprehensiveness of the matter that we're discussing today. We hear it. We hear it from our stakeholders, we hear it from the legislators on what it is that we need to do. We're not running from trying to fix it and make it right, because we want to make it right. I joined this agency as a proud young man trying to serve and trying to make it right. And I sit in this position every day, hoping that we can build and regain the trust from families like Ronald Green and other families that have lost lives, senseless situations that should not have happened. That's my job every day that I'm working on. I know we're instilling upon those that are in these positions that have been given this authority to figure it out and get it right because of what's expected of us. If you may not be aware, Colonel Davis did go before the Ways and Means Committee on Tuesday. And in that discussion, he went Tuesday in support of this much needed pay raise. And I want to talk about it for a minute because on that day, he did ask and humbly presented to the Ways and Means Committee the reasons why we believe it's necessary and it's needed. He asked for consideration for this proposal because of the work that we're trying to do, that we're putting in place, that we're making, putting the measures in place to keep and hold everybody accountable. The work that we do and the things that is expected of us brings a whole different level of impact to the trooper, to our personnel, civilian and commission alike, to the family and citizens of the state. All are impacted by what it is that we do. We acknowledge, and as I've mentioned already, identified areas that we need to work on to be a better agency. And I'll pause for a minute because I do want to offer this opportunity, to offer this chance. And would love to also, as you've asked, Mr. Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, to have a conversation with the Green family at the appropriate time. Would love to invite them in and let them see what we've worked on just in the last 6 to 8 months, so that they can see, also have input. Anybody who is concerned or worried about how this agency is shaping up, and how we are reimagining what policing should be and how it should be done today. We've taken that responsibility and we're moving so many things forward and putting in place within the department as we speak. As a matter of fact, you know that we have solicited the Bowman Group to come in and do a top-to-bottom assessment of our agency. Today, yesterday, they have been on the ground here in Baton Rouge, helping to break down and go through the recommendations that are going to be part of this final product, and that will be released to the public when it's finalized. We're sitting now today, as we speak, with commanders that are reviewing and analyzing those recommendations, those proposed recommendations, to talk about how we're going to implement them and make it better, and also seek the opinion and comments from the citizens and the communities that we serve.
Could you briefly explain who or what the Bowman Group is?
Yes, the Bowman Group has been identified as one of the premier groups that have gone around working with agencies that have had deficiencies, that have had issues with personnel, hiring, use of force issues. You name it, top to bottom, from the administration side of the building to the operational side of an agency. They have had numerous experiences with agencies such as Chicago and several others that we were made aware of. And that many of those agencies have been under consent decrees and have been dealt consent decree issues to make their department better. But the Bowman Group has been brought in since last March.
Sometimes when you hear the term consent decree, it connotes certain things, but I mean, beyond simply the troopers who are hired, the demographics of those troopers, let's focus on the issues that this group has helped other agencies with relative to dealing with issues. And this, of most concerned right now, use of force, inappropriate conduct, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I can share some topics I know that they've covered as we have been interviewing with them, sitting down with them, opening up the department from top to bottom, side to side. They're looking at our use of force practices and incidents that have connected use of force to it. They're looking at our disciplinary procedures and policies. They're looking at how we are training, recruiting, and what is it that we're putting in place to retain officers within the department. They are looking at our training, use of force, hiring, disciplinary issues, just to name a few that I can think of offhand, Mr. Chairman. Those are some of the topics and subjects I know specifically that they're drilling down on.
And I just wanted to make that point because I know a lot of times people give the term consent decrees, they think about one issue, but consent decrees deals with a lot of issues, including use of force and other issues that we have concern about here.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to make that clear.
Right, and also along with the Bowman Group, we also have the Department of Justice that as you know, are actively involved with investigating and looking at our agencies and the practice and patterns of state police. So we are working with them as we speak. And there's also, I'll put on record, it's already been publicized, there's a meeting and we actually encourage anybody with concerns or input on how to make state police better. They will be at Southern University, I believe, next week. The DOJ will be there to hear and get feedback from the public and anyone. And we love to hear that. That's the only way we can get better, and we know that. And the other thing that Colonel Davis spoke about just the other day at the Ways and Means Committee was that we're being asked to go into various cities right now to help supplement. Crime is not being isolated to any one particular area. Crime is on an uptick across many of our major cities. And sometimes with the lack of personnel, we become a part of that resource and force multiply to assist our other agencies in some of our metropolitan cities. So that's another reason why we're asking for consideration, because it stretches the resources that we do have and are providing to make our highways safer. It stretches those resources when we do supplement and add the resources to those particular areas that are in need. We're also asking for your support because we're competing with other agencies. You mentioned it as well. This is not a matter of throwing money at a problem and hoping that that problem goes away. The issue at hand is that we're competing with other state police agencies across this United States and other local law enforcement agencies as they struggle with trying to recruit and bring in folks into the ranks to make the agency better. And listen, we have to at some point acknowledge the fact that while we have issues, we're looking to recruit. With the crime on the rise, the only way to make things better as well, we recruit qualified, quality troopers into the ranks to make this place that we call Louisiana, the state of Louisiana, better. And that's my goal. As long as I'm in position, as long as I have breath in my body to give influence and give direction into this department, my goal is to make sure that we have people that are going to be better serving to our citizens and making sure that our people feel that they're being treated fairly and treated appropriately. I have zero tolerance for it. And my word is what I stand on. And that's the reason why I'm working every day to make sure that this reputation of the department is worked on to be better and to be acknowledged. I do want to be known as the lead agency, and we're working on that to work in areas of building the trust from our community. So with that being said, I'll be respectful of your time, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, and I stand ready if you have any questions. I'll remain here at the table.
Any questions? Any further comments from any of the committee? Call the matter for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.